Want to get your question answered on a future episode of We're From The Internet? Head over to we'refromtheinternet.com/question, tweet your questions at Kev Steve, email kevinsteve@gmail.com, or post them at facebook.com/kevinsteve, or even leave them in the comments for this episode. Why are we recording the episode 1 to a podcast for the first time? I mean, this must be like the 8th time over the years we've done an episode 1 of a podcast.
We do like a prequel episode, don't we? A first one.
Yeah. Is this episode 1 or is it episode 0?
I don't know.
It says episode 0 on the screen there. Are we episode 0?
I think this was the prequel.
This is the prequel. So what's this? What's We're From The Internet all about? Why am I sat in front of a microphone with you again?
Well, we want to answer people's questions and we want to just talk about stuff, but...
You insist on doing that in front of a microphone. Why can't we just do a helpline? I wanted to do the adult equivalent of child line, adult line, which apparently you said had some different connotations to the ones I...
Yeah, we don't have the voice for it, but yeah, we just want to have people send us some questions about the universe at large, and we'll just...
But who the hell are we to answer people's questions?
Well...
I warned you in the car on the way over here, I was going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you to give the potted history of Steve in 2 minutes.
What, now?
Now, right now, tell people why they should listen to your answers to questions. You fraud.
Well, do you know what? I was thinking about this after you mentioned it, and I reckon from the age of about 18 onwards, I must have been hit on the head or something, because I can't remember the first 18-odd years of my life, so I've had to piece it all together over the past 11 years, learn as I go along.
Did you just reveal your age there?
Yeah, I'm 29.
For people who can add up.
Nearly 30.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm learning it all again. I'm piecing it all together, and you know, I'm finding that because I'm learning it all as an adult, I'm finding things people have forgot or just don't know, and I think I'm qualified to answer them with that. And the fact I got a degree and everything, and used to be a teacher.
That makes you a question meister, does it?
Yeah.
Are you a question meister or an answer meister?
I'm a raconteur, banter meister, or whatever they're called.
Well, to give people the rough background, I will tell you about me in a minute. I'm not just a personalityless voice that asks him questions every now and again.
You should be, because that's a good role for you.
I'd enjoy that. There'd be a lot less work involved if you just gave me a list of things to say and I just had to say them on cue. In fact, first 10 episodes, we'll do it like that and see if people complain. So, yeah, let us know. Next 10 episodes you listen to, I'm just going to be reading off a script he gives me. So we'll see how it turns out. But the whole point of We're From The Internet is it's going to be a daily podcast. It's going to be released at 3 a.m. every day because a postman told us that was the best time for it to be released for him.
You did.
We want questions on any and all topics, preferably left in the voicemail, which you can get to at we'refromtheinternet.com/question. I'm doing that off the top of my head because I can't remember. But leave us a voicemail on there, or you can tweet them at us at Kev Steve, or email them kevinsteve@gmail.com, or stick them on facebook.com/kevinsteve. But questions on anything. These could be, you could be asking us for advice. You could be asking us to explain something you don't really understand. You might set us a research topic that we have to go and find out something about. You could be deliberately quizzing us to test if we know something.
Do your homework for you?
I'm not going to do people's... you understand I am still a teacher. I'm just going to get my own students asking me the answers to the homework I've set them. That's not how this show's going to work.
As long as we answer them in a witty way, it'll be all right, surely.
I'm not so sure. I am Kev, the taller one of the two.
I'm Steve.
I like the way you didn't ask me about my history. You just...
I don't care. But go on.
These people might care. You understand the whole purpose of this episode is for the people who've never heard our podcast before. We might well have been podcasting for 5 years, and we might have our crew of 8 or 9 people who listen to everything we ever put out, but I'm hoping this might be the show that gets us a 10th listener, and that 10th listener needs to know who they're listening to. They need to understand that we have film star good looks, and, you know, all that stuff.
So what did you do with your life after you crawled out of the swamp you grew in?
I've done many things. I'm a man of many talents. I've had lots of boring grown-up jobs, and then when I was about your age, actually, in my late 20s, I had my midlife crisis. I had it quite early, my early to midlife crisis, we should probably call it. At which point I stopped being a grown-up, bought some microphones and started talking on the internet with you. Went back to university and did all that stuff, and somehow woke up a few years later as a teacher and host of multiple podcasts and a man of the internet, which was a bit of a surprise, really, because up until the age of about 20, I didn't really know how to use a computer, and now I've got a degree in it, and I teach it, and I'm on the internet all the time, both talking and writing and whatever else I get up to. So it's been an odd 10 years.
It has, hasn't it? I mean, I've known you since 2007, 8. I can't remember now.
I don't know. When did we start?
9, maybe one of those years.
But if we've been podcasting 5 years, yeah, we'd known each other a few weeks before we started podcasting, before we started recording every conversation we had for posterity. Yeah, it's been a weird one, and here we are starting yet another podcast. We have, if you're interested, based on this 5 minutes of audio gold, in finding out about some of the stuff we've done before, you can look up Best Thing From. There's a couple of seasons of that out there on the internet somewhere, one of which is on iTunes and Stitcher, where you're probably listening to this show. So Best Thing From, that's about a year and a half of us doing a similar thing to this, really, except it was in hour-long episodes once a week, and the questions were all around one topic, so we'd bunch it all together, whereas this one is every day, shorter shows on whatever you lot decide you want to ask us about. But we also host the UK's #1 independent video gaming podcast, the Mature Gamer Podcast. That's been going for 3 and a bit years now, 3.5 years nearly.
160 odd episodes, isn't
it?
Yeah.
I know episode 200 happens in the last episode of this year, so that's roughly the 4-year point. And people like that. We do our own event for that now. So if you want to hear us talk about video games, you can check that show out. That's on iTunes and Stitcher, and there's a lot of it on YouTube as well. We've written a few books together, haven't we?
A lot of books, 20 odd.
Yeah, we've got 4 volumes of Best Thing From books, which are, again, it's the book version of this, what you're listening to now, really. So it's 6.5 minutes now. If this is the best 6.5 minutes you've ever had, check out the Best Thing From books. You can get the first one for free on Amazon. Just search for Best Thing From. And we've written some novels and stuff, and it's been a busy...
We just like making stuff for the internet, don't we?
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing.
Why is the show called We're From the Internet, by the way?
Because that's where people can find us, I guess. And...
Do you not remember the real reason?
Oh, well, yeah, that was our catchphrase, wasn't it? To get free stuff when we were meeting people.
Back in the day, just using those 4 words scored us a line of beers across a bar in a pub. It scored us a pork pie and a Hayslett. It got us free entry to places. It probably got us some other stuff too. This is all documented in our memoirs.
Yeah. I mean, we've got so many free...
Are you wearing those shoes now?
They've got a massive hole in them though, which is annoying.
That's unfortunate, isn't it?
I'm wearing them into the ground.
But yeah, the phrase did us so well, and we were tempted to bring this back as Best Thing From, because that's the name we always use for this off-topic nonsense, but it didn't really fit, and people would moan about it a little bit. So we're from the internet. We've finally been allowed to use it. We did try a few years ago, and iTunes said no, but they've said yes this time, hopefully.
You think?
Yeah, they've said yes by email. If you never hear this on iTunes, that's because they said no when we actually submitted it. But fingers crossed, they've said yes this time. We would really, really appreciate a 5-star review rating, both on iTunes and on Stitcher. That really will give us a boost for the early shows. But really, all you need to do from here is keep listening. Episode 1 should start up pretty much as soon as this one's done. Episode 2 will be there shortly after as well, and like I say, it's going to be every day. So if you can spare 10 minutes of your morning routine while you're making your coffee, perhaps having a little bit of toast, there was a lot of scientific research that decided people have 5 to 10 minutes free in their morning routine before they leave the house, so you can now waste that time listening to us whilst you're drinking your coffee. We'll probably be drinking coffee while we're doing the shows as well, because we've got some brewing in the other room. So, it's we're all going to have a coffee together. So yeah, hit subscribe, give us a rating and a review, and if you do want to ask a question for a future show, you can tweet them in at Kev Steve. You can put them on Facebook, facebook.com/Kev Steve. You can email them to kevinsteve@gmail.com, or the very best option of all, because it gets your voice out on the show. You go to we'refromtheinternet.com/question, and you can record a voicemail question for us, and that would be swell.
Definitely it would. Otherwise I'll have to use that robot that you've got sitting in the cupboard.
Yeah, he's cool though. He brings me stuff.
He's always a bit drunk though as well.
Fits right in. Want to get every episode of We're From the Internet at least a day earlier than the iTunes and Stitcher folk? Head over to we'refromtheinternet.com/pledge to support us on Patreon, and as well as early access, we'll throw in an exclusive weekly show just for our patrons too.